Hello and welcome to the Meridian Productivity podcast. Our goal for these podcasts and for these videos and for these interviews is to give you access to leaders within health and care to help you as we continue to delve and tread and somehow get through this immensely huge pandemic that we find ourselves in, and offering you the advice and support of those who are working through it on a daily basis. This is Meridian Productivity Presents Lynne Carter. Lynne, how are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you.
Perfect. Are you a coffee person or a tea person, Lynne? What's your preference?
I am a very large cup of coffee person, very regularly.
Fantastic, brilliant. I guess firstly, Lynne, before we go into the questions, do you mind just giving us a little bit overview of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm Lynne Carter. I'm a registered general nurse and a learning disability nurse, and I'm currently the chief nurse and deputy chief exec at Bridgewater Community Healthcare Trust, based in Warrington, but delivering community services across Warrington, Halton, and also dental services, specialist dental services across a really wide footprint. So it's quite a different job. And there's quite a lot to do, but I've been an executive nurse for a long time in different organisations, so this sort of brings together all of the vulnerable groups that I would choose to work with. So I work with older people and with children's services and people with mental health issues, difficult to reach groups. So that's my current job.
Fantastic, brilliant. Lynne, I guess firstly from your perspective, being a leader within your organisation, what three things, in your opinion, from your perspective, make a great leader within the NHS and within health and care as a whole?
I think the first thing I would say is patient focus. So never lose sight of what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I mean that from a perspective of you're sitting in a meeting about a contract, and activity and performance, but actually these are people. They're not numbers, they're just people, and those people deserve the best. So if you can retain your patient focus, it certainly helps you move forward in terms of leading services. And I think secondly for me it would be positivity. As I say, I've got a long career in the health service, and there have been times when it's been really challenging, and certainly no more than it is now. But I think remaining positive is really a good focus. I think what you tend to forget sometimes as a leader is how you impact on others. And if you're negative or you're having a bad day or things are challenging, then that can impact on other people. So the more positive you remain, the more positive they remain. And it enables you to move forward in a much better way. And I think the last thing I would say is patience. Things move slowly in the NHS and in local government, and sometimes you can see the solution, but it takes a while to get there. And you've got to have the patience to just keep going. You do get there eventually, and sometimes you need to wait. Sometimes things aren't right, so you have to work through things. So I think those would be my sort of key messages.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And what would be your advice for those that are perhaps in leadership right now, and or new to leadership within the NHS, and are find themselves trying to lead their organisation through this pandemic, and as we look towards the future, looking at a world where COVID might be here to stay potentially. That's obviously right now being discussed. What would be your advice for colleagues in that position?
I think the thing that's been the most important for me during this time, if we not ignore, but if we consider all the harm that's been caused and the harm that's continuing throughout this, but if you put that to one side, I think the major thing for me has been around workforce and understanding that you have to be able to maintain people's resilience. You need the right workforce, and sometimes that means moving people about and doing things in a different way. And when there's a real crisis, people are very agile and very helpful, and they will really respond. As that lengthens and things get more and more and more challenging, it's difficult for people to continue to do that. So I think for me, the focus on your workforce, the people who work with you, making sure that you're planning for the future. So an example is one of the things that we found during COVID was a lot of the universities were having trouble getting placements for students. because people were really busy and the last thing they wanted was a student. But for me, taking students at that time was really crucial because they are our future workforce. So supporting and enabling them throughout this time will mean that we've got a workforce that's more prepared for the future. And we've done a lot of work around health and well-being for our staff, just trying to maintain that resilience, because whilst you focus on someone at work for however many hours a day they're there, in their own lives they have other things going on. So during this pandemic, my dad had to go into care, my mum died, I didn't see my son for 9 months. I mean, he's an adult, but it doesn't matter, he's still my son. And I've been waiting for surgery. So all of those things impacted on me, as well as COVID, as well as work. So, it's really important to remember that people have lives, and sometimes you need to support their life as well as supporting what they do for you.
That's really interesting. It's so true. I think it is easy to kind of forget, isn't it, that people have, their own personal situations and circumstances. And I think often we become so fixated upon the immediate priorities without actually factoring in everything else with that particular person. Every person is a human being at the end.
Yeah, I think that's the important bit for me about leadership is not forgetting that. All of those things really matter. That's why people are able to give their best, if you can support them. And I think it's really also important to understand that actually we give all of that attention to patients. We think about everything that's going on around the patient to make things right. It's also our duty to make sure we're considering everything around the people that are working with us.
Absolutely. It's so true. And I guess finally, what one or two things, Lynne, are you quite excited to talk about, and in terms of positive stuff from the organisation as a whole? What two things would you be quite keen to illuminate, if you like?
I think the first thing is, as a community organisation, is our work integrating with local authorities. So we've done a lot of work to work as teams together in our communities. Our work is really important in promoting the health of the local community. And by working with local authorities and other partners, we're able to do that much better. It makes better use of our staff and our resources, but it also gives a better impact for our patients and the people who live in those communities. So our integration work with Warrington Local Authority and with Halton have been really, really important, and that's still continuing at pace despite the pandemic. So that's really important. I think the other thing is the changes within the NHS. And we're working now as part of developing a collaborative with other providers, mental health providers and other providers in our local areas, so that we can level up. I think sometimes every organisation has things they do well and things they do not so well. If you can work together, you can bring that standard right up, so everybody does the best at all times. And that's got to be better for our patients and our population. So I think the changes in the white paper are really positive, and we're grabbing onto that and working really well with that. But I think the work with the local authorities and primary care networks is crucial. And those are the things I'm most proud of in our organisation at the moment.
Fantastic. Lynne, it's been such a pleasure speaking to you on this very short coffee/tea call today. Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to hearing some more positive developments from Bridgewater and within the wider NHS as a whole. Thank you so much for your time today.
No problem. Thank you very much.